Okay, so we're nearly done setting up all of the controls on the left-hand side of our character. The only thing that's left to do now is to set up our hand. So let's jump over to the whiteboard and discuss the hand setup that we're going to be using. So I'm going to jump over to the whiteboard. Let's bring up a new layer. Fantastic. So we're going to basically be giving a FK hand to our animator. There are a number of different approaches you can take for a hand rig, and I wanted to keep this one fairly simple because the animator had requested easy usable controls. So they're going to get full control over the motion of the hand whilst having a simple set of controls. So it's basically going to be an FK hand with FK controls for each of the bones in the hand. However, we can layer controls and we can give different levels of control by layering those controls. If you like, you can think of it as being a control level of detail. So at the finest level, that would be true FK. At the finest level, if you imagine we have a finger with 3 bones in, we'd have true FK. So we'd have an FK control with 3 axes of motion on the first bone, an FK control with just rotate X on the second, and on the third. So we'd have true FK with FK control. The animator has a control object per bone to come in and manipulate the fingers, and also we'll have FK controls on our thumb. However, on the fingers, we can also come in and implement another level of control. So we have the same bone chain sat there. But what if on top of those FK controls, we come in with the middle level of control, which is a single 3-axis rotational control sat at the start of our finger. If the animator was to rotate this on any axis, it will rotate our first bone on all 3 of those axes, as well as actually rotating our first control object on all 3 of those axes, since I want the first control object to always match our bone's orientation. So it's going to rotate both our bone and the first control object on all 3 axes. However, the special thing about this control over just having our single FK control, the special thing about this control is that if we rotate it on X, that rotation gets applied to both of our lower 2 bones. That means we have one control for a finger where we can position the entire finger based on rotations at the top of the finger, or rotate in X to curl that finger up. So that's going to be our second layer of control. Our third layer of control, our highest level of control, is going to be to control all 4 fingers at once. So I'm just going to draw out a couple of our fingers, but we all get the idea. So we're going to have all 4 of our fingers. I'll just draw out a couple. And we're going to have a rotational control that sits up in the palm of our hand that we can rotate only in X. When we do that, that rotation will get applied to all of our bones in our hand. That means that we can rotate that control in X and our entire hand, all of the fingers will curl up. The thumb is unaffected, the thumb only has FK controls, but all the fingers will curl up. So we now have 3 different levels of control: the fine-tuned control with FK, a per finger control, or an entire hand in terms of finger controls. We're also going to provide a spread parameter onto that highest level of control, and that will deal with rotating the tops of the bones to spread our fingers apart, or if we went in a negative direction with that parameter, to bring our fingers closer together. So with those 3 levels of control, an animator will have a lot of flexibility for working with the hand. They can jump in and quickly pose the hand as a whole, or they can pose it on a finger by finger basis, or if they want to, they can fine tune each of the bones. So they have a lot of control. So over the next few videos, we're going to set up these various levels of control. We're going to start out by setting up our finest level of control and the medium level of control. So that's going to be both our FK and that medium level. We'll start out setting those up on a single finger manually. However, it's a fairly lengthy process and it's a repetitive process on all the other fingers. So after there, we're actually going to write a script to automate that process and apply that script to the other 3 fingers. Once we have those all 4 fingers in place, we can go ahead and set up our highest level of control manually. That's this guy here. We'll set him up manually. Then we'll finish off the entire thing by setting up our thumb with FK controls and setting up a parameter that will control the display and visibility of each of these controls based on a finger control level of detail. So as we go through an integer number, different controls will become available to the animator. So with that, that is going to conclude this overview of the hand, and over the next few videos we will begin implementing the hand. Thanks a lot.